Well, Christmas time is always silly season for statisticians and scientists who like to apply their academic expertise to pressing questions like which is the best Christmas song. Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You is regularly in the top 2 or 3 of the most loved Christmas songs in the UK. But get this, it also tops the chart of most hated Christmas songs, making it the Marmite of festive entertainment. Meanwhile, scientists have been studying which Christmas songs are the best songs for driving. And the message here is clear. Watch out if you're listening to Sleigh Ride by the Ronettes or Merry Christmas Everybody by Shakin' Stevens, because their 200 beats per minute tempo is very likely to tempt you to speed. But the standout conclusion for me was that Chris Rea's song Driving Home for Christmas is a dangerous song to listen to if you are actually driving home for Christmas. Because it is too slow and it will probably send you to sleep. Driving Home for Christmas is more of a number 5 or 6 on the most loved songs chart. It's a solid mid-table performance year after year. And even if you can't listen to it while driving, it does a good job of evoking that feeling of finally heading home. Driving home for Christmas. I can't wait to see those faces, and it's been so long, but I will be there. I sing this song. No, Chris, don't sing the song, you'll fall asleep. Top to toe in tailbacks, he goes on. Oh, I got red lights all around. He looks at the driver next to him. He's just the same. It's a story of anticipation, of longing, of being prepared to put up with the M25 and the M1 with the never-ending roadworks, or the flight on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day even, all just to get there in time. Where is home for you and for me? For Chris Rea, believe it or not, the home he's singing about getting back to is actually Middlesbrough, of all places. I don't know if anyone here is from there. But it's hardly an obvious place, if we're honest, of Christmas hopes and dreams. But that probably points to something that will be true in different ways for all of us. Home for each of us might evoke a mixture of longing, safety, familiarity, love, but perhaps also at times disappointment, frustration, sadness. A sense sometimes that even when we are home, we feel we are not at home. And home is a theme that you can hear running through the readings we've heard this evening. In the first reading from Genesis chapter 3, at the beginning of the Bible, we heard about how human beings have been shut out from our original home, the paradise of the Garden of Eden. Shut out because of our rebellion against God, desiring to have life our way without reference to him. And now all of life is a life lived outside the garden. A life which is so often spoilt by our desire to push God off his throne and put ourselves in his place. Now, of course, we often put a lot of effort into distracting ourselves from the hopelessness of that life outside the garden. The Oxford English Dictionary's word of the year for 2024, I don't know if you know this, it's brain rot, which refers to the deterioration of a person's intellectual state as a result of the overconsumption of trivial online material, the endless scrolling which mimics our restless longing for connection, for meaning, for the warmth of home. And even Christmas itself can be like that, can't it? So much effort and anticipation only for the reality to be messy, underwhelming, or filled with family arguments and stress. Well, what then is the solution to that? How can humanity find its true home? Netflix recently premiered a new documentary on the Apollo 13 mission in 1970 that narrowly avoided disaster. It's another story of stranded humanity overcoming all the odds to get home. From the words, Houston, we've had a problem, to the dramatic, safe return to Earth, it is on the edge of your seat drama. Jim Lovell, the lead astronaut, has commented that when he looked back at Earth from space, he realised that Earth itself is a spaceship flying through an empty universe with a crew that, in his words, just need to learn to get along. And it's a great sentiment, but thousands of years of so-called human progress seem to only lead us in the opposite direction. The return to Earth of the Apollo 13 spaceship Odyssey was driven by the phrase, failure is not an option. And it worked for Apollo 13, but we know so often mankind fails and continues to fail to get home, to engineer paradise, to get back to Eden. But in the readings that we heard first of promises of something different, and then the reality in Jesus. And that thing that is different is that rather than demanding that we find our own way back, our own way home, God first came to make his home with us. The Word, which is God the Son, Jesus, the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. There are many great stories following a rags to riches kind of shape. The shape of this story is riches to rags. It's a true story of unexpected grace and love and kindness in the face of rejection and rebellion. Currently in the cinemas, you can see both Gladiator 2 and Paddington 3. I think if you see them back to back, you can call it Gladdington. But there was a great tweet on X with a picture of a cinema board advertising Gladiator 2, Paddington 3. And the caption was, "Amazing win away from home for the little guy." And John, in his gospel, is telling us of Jesus coming away from home in heaven to begin life as a little guy, as a baby, to make a home with us on earth, to identify throughout his life with us, with fallen, broken humanity, even to the extent of taking on himself the consequences of our rebellion against God, suffering the judgment of God in the place of sinful human beings so that we might find our home with God as he died on the cross and rose. That is what God offers in Jesus. Forgiveness for our rebellion, a restored relationship with him, and the promise of a true and eternal home. And that offer is open to anyone who will admit their need, believe in what Jesus has done, and turn back to him as Saviour and King. When Jim Lovell looked back at Earth from space, he said he saw it as a grand oasis in the big vastness of space. And he said as he looked back, he and his fellow astronauts knew as they faced almost certain disaster, there was nowhere else to go. And so this Christmas, as we drive home or fly home or stay put where we are, the message is that God has made his home with us. Those longings, those dreams, those desires for something greater are fulfilled not in ourselves, not in our own efforts to build a better life, but in the God who in his Son gives the right to become his children and in him find the eternal home we were created for. There is nowhere else to go. And so this Christmas and always, God says to us, come home.